The authors of Pain are here to tear things up. Bobby Lashley returns home to the WWE, and Paige says an emotional goodbye to the WWE Universe. That is just scratching the surface. What's up, guys? I am Bernard Boo. This is WrestleBoo, and today I'm going over the Raw after WrestleMania 34. This was a fun show. If WrestleMania 34 was lacking in the returns and the debuts and the surprise appearances, the Raw the night after really made up for it. The show opened with a promo segment involving Stephanie McMahon and Ronda Rousey following their WrestleMania 34 bout. They both did a tremendous job on Sunday, and now we see Stephanie McMahon trying to get on the good side of Ronda Rousey following their issues, and Ronda wasn't having it after a wonderful promo from Stephanie where she was really working that crowd up and getting them to boo her out of that building. Ronda, while at first seemed to accept Stephanie McMahon's apology of sorts, she quickly turned on the billionaire princess and worked on that arm again, got her in that arm bar, and it was a fun little moment, just kind of reminding the fans of what happened on Sunday, and it was entertaining enough. Then we see the new Raw Women's Champion, Nia Jax, come out to celebrate her big win from Sunday. Alexa Bliss and Mickie James, the Mean Girls, come out to rain on her parade, but then a tag match is set up between Alexa, Mickie, and Nia Jax and Nia's partner, Ember Moon, the debuting Ember Moon graduating from NXT to the main roster. I was never the biggest fan of Ember Moon in NXT. There was something about her character I just didn't connect with, but in the ring, I can't really fault her, and she showcased her skills, and that finisher, the Eclipse, is a thing of beauty. It always just looks so spectacular when she pulls it off. Then we had a backstage segment that saw Braun Strowman and his tag team partner Nicholas, the boy that he grabbed from the crowd at WrestleMania 34. They're the new tag team champions, the Raw tag team champions. They walk into Kurt Angle's office and relinquish those titles. Makes sense to me. I'm glad that they're not drawing this out any longer than they have to. I wasn't a fan of that match at WrestleMania 34, so I'm glad the red straps are up for grabs. The Bar are going to face a team at Backlash for those titles, and Kurt Angle set up a tag team eliminator to determine that team. We had the Revival beating the Club, and we had the newly formed team of Woken Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt defeating Titus Worldwide. I think it's pretty obvious here that Matt and Bray are going to go into Backlash to face off against the Bar. It wouldn't make sense for the Revival to go up against the Bar because that'd be two heel tag teams, and one of those teams, the Revival, definitely isn't over enough with those fans yet to make a heel-heel match work at this stage, so it's gotta be Bray and Matt going into Backlash for those red straps. Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Miz, and his Miztourage had an in-ring promo where Seth was celebrating his win. He's a new Grand Slam champion. Now all three Shield members are Grand Slam champions. That's a fun fact. That's kind of cool. This was a solid segment. Nothing new here except for, Miz talking about being a new father. I don't know what that contributes to his super heel persona, but I guess he has to talk about it because it's the elephant in the room. Everyone knows that he just had a kid. Then a returning Jeff Hardy came out to spice up the segment. A six-man tag was made for later in the night for the main event, Miz and his Miztourage against Seth, Finn, and Jeff. Sasha Banks faced off against Mandy Rose. This was an alright match. I think Mandy Rose looks really good in there. I remember when she was super green and on that Tough Enough show, it seems like yesterday. The hook here was that Bayley came out in support of her frenemy, Sasha Banks, on Sunday. Bayley threw Sasha over the top rope in that women's battle royal, and there's a lot of tension between those two women, so throughout this match, Bayley was threatening to get involved. She went for a punch or a forearm on Mandy Rose, missed, and hit Sasha. This is classic wrestling. We all know where this is going. Or maybe we don't. I don't know whether they're going to go with a full-on heel turn for Bayley or not, but I hope they go all the way with it. Then the baby faces got out of there, leaving Absolution in the ring. Paige, Mandy Rose, and Sonya Deville, and then Sonya and Mandy left, and I think we all knew what was going to happen at that point. Rumors have been swirling about Paige's in-ring future for months, and last night she confirmed everyone's worst fears. She is retiring. She's no longer going to be competing in that ring. This is such a sadness. I think she's one of the most talented women's wrestlers in history, and she's only been in the WWE for 4 years on the main roster, and she's done so well. I'm a big fan of hers, and she's so young. I think she's in her mid-20s. Her family's been in the business forever. She's grown up literally in the business. She said her goodbyes and she was emotional. The crowd was emotional. So was I. She mentioned that she saw Edge backstage. Edge famously did get his career cut short as well, but Edge had a sort of long career, and he was world champion, and he main evented WrestleMania. Paige didn't even scratch the surface of what she was capable of in this business, so thank you, Paige. I hope she can come back perhaps in the future. She mentioned that Daniel Bryan gives her hope, and that gives me hope. Then we got an in-ring promo segment from Elias, one of my favorites on the show. He's so good at trolling that crowd. They hang on every word he says and react exactly how he wants them to. He is so good on that mic this early in his WWE career. I can't wait to see where he goes in the future. Then he's interrupted by a returning Bobby Lashley. Bobby had such a great run in Impact Wrestling, TNA. He really grew there and met his full potential, and now he's back in the WWE. I am super stoked for this, and he hasn't aged a day. He's one of those vampire wrestlers like John Cena. It's all fresh matchups for him. He can wrestle almost anybody on that roster, and it's going to feel fresh. It's going to feel new. This is the Bobby Lashley I always wanted, and he's back, and he's going to make that roster even more stacked than it already is. Then we see Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn backstage with General Manager Kurt Angle asking for a job. They lost their match at WrestleMania 34, thereby losing their jobs at SmackDown Live. They're here on Raw, and they politely, very politely, they were wearing suits. Kevin Owens in a suit is one of the funniest things ever. But to see Sami and Kevin acting like these polite little boys asking for an honest job from Kurt Angle was very entertaining. Kurt Angle says he has one slot on the roster, gives them an opportunity to wrestle each other for that last spot. That match happened later in the night, and man, it was my highlight of the show. I love watching Kevin Owens, formerly Kevin Steen, wrestle Sami Zayn, formerly El Generico. These two guys are as compatible in that ring as almost anybody. They know what the other likes to do. They think about wrestling in the same way, and because they're friends, they really lay their stuff in, and it looks so brutal, and they both get counted out or counted down. We had a double down. The ref counted to 10. Neither of them got up, so there was no winner. We'll see next week what happens with these two guys during the two-night Superstar Shakeup that they announced tonight. And that's the other thing I forgot to mention. They announced a Superstar Shakeup next week on Raw and SmackDown, a two-day event. I think this is the perfect time for a shakeup to shuffle up those rosters and get the writers' creative juices flowing. Then we got another NXT graduation, the Authors of Pain showing up to demolish Heath Slater and Rhino, who I have so much respect for Heath Slater. He's got this over gimmick that he's got kids gimmick. He's selling t-shirts, and he's never on TV. But when he is, he maximizes those minutes. The Authors of Pain are one of my favorite NXT call-ups ever. I've been waiting for these guys to come up for so long. I think they're going to change the landscape of that tag division because they're straight up, straightforward. Their gimmick is simple, but super versatile. They can have good matches with any other type of tag team. They're a great foil for so many of these other styles of tag teams, and these guys have a great look too. They're like two gorillas in there, and unlike a lot of other big guys that have that build, they know how to emote and use their whole body to express themselves in there. I think when Akam got on top of Heath Slater and he was ground and pounding him, he wasn't laying in these little short, tight punches. He was mauling him like a gorilla, just pounding him Donkey Kong style, and it looked so cool. Next up, we had Roman Reigns coming out to talk about his match with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 34. Watch my WrestleMania 34 reaction video to see my thoughts on that. I really, really didn't like it, and I haven't washed the bad taste of that match out of my mouth yet. Roman comes out and complains about The Office and Vince McMahon, talking about how he has a cage match with Brock at the Greatest Royal Rumble Network event later this month, and he didn't know about it. He found out about it on the internet. Dude, no one's buying this idea that Roman Reigns is somehow this renegade in the back and he's this anti-authority figure. We all know that he's one of the biggest and most promoted superstars in the company. So, them trying to grab for this perception that he's a rebel is a joke. But it's not Roman's fault. I'm sure this thing was written out for him word for word. I wish they would just let him go in there. We know from a few weeks ago that incredible promo he cut on Brock that he's capable of having really effective promos in there. He's a good speaker, I think, if they just let him do what he wants to do. This promo was kind of flat for me until Samoa Joe returned. We get another return. This was so exciting. This was great television. Joe came out with that deep voice and he was running Roman down, talking about how he was a complainer and he has to kind of come to terms with the fact that Brock is just gonna get richer and keep beating you in that ring. I love Samoa Joe's voice. It's like he came back and it was like, oh, daddy's home. You know, he runs this place. He's the real big dog. Later on in the night, we saw a short but sweet backstage segment that saw Finn, Seth Rollins, and Jeff Hardy walking backstage out to their match that was later on in the night. And then out of nowhere, Woken Matt Hardy shows up to greet his brother Jeff, or brother Nero, say hi. And Bray Wyatt joined them as well, the new kind of Woken Matt Hardy disciple. And he gives Jeff Hardy a hug. I so hope that this leads to a new stable that sees Brother Nero teaming with Woken Matt Hardy and the Eater of Worlds. But then there was this funny little moment after the little Hardy reunion where the camera panned back over to show that Seth and Finn had been standing there the whole time to watch this really bizarre conversation between the Hardys and Bray, and that made me laugh. Then we had the main event. This was action-packed. We saw Finn Balor. I mean, he really always impresses me out there. His intensity reminds me of guys like the Dynamite Kid and Chris Benoit and even a Fit Finlay. He's just in such good shape, and even though he's a small guy, man, he's so cut that he is scary in there. It's believable that these guys would be intimidated by Finn Balor, even though some of them are twice his size. Finn really knows how to turn it up, and so does Seth. Seth, the consummate professional, the consummate overachiever in that ring. He hit that superplex into Falcon Arrow sequence that he does all the time and that I will never get tired of. He hit that on The Miz. And actually, I was listening to, I think it was Taz's show, Taz's radio show or podcast, and Taz was talking about how in that sequence, the superplex to Falcon Arrow, the recipient of that move is actually doing maybe more work than Seth. He was talking about how it's really hard to take that superplex and then shift your hips so that Seth can get you up for that Falcon Arrow, so I guess good on Miz. The match ended with Seth hitting the blackout on Miz, that curb stomp. I'm so glad it's back, and then we saw the baby faces hit their finishing moves as well, just to send the crowd home happy. As far as the program goes, it was a really entertaining 3 hours. I can't be mad at this. This was so much fun. It didn't feel like it was 3 hours, didn't feel like a slog, as Monday Night Raw can feel like a lot of the time. I'm recording this just a couple hours before SmackDown. I can't wait to see what happens on that show. We've got a heel Shinsuke Nakamura entering that program now, and that's gonna be good TV. I think Shinsuke is going to show us colors of his personality that we haven't seen before. Come back tomorrow for my reactions to SmackDown Live. If you like this video, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Raw in the comments, and I'll see you guys soon. Sorry, I forgot to mention that NXT superstar, former NXT superstar No Way Jose graduated to the main roster. I don't care so much. I don't like this gimmick. I think he's a good wrestler, but I have no interest in this. This just reminds me of Adam Rose from a few years ago, but we'll see. You never know. I didn't like Elias in NXT either, but he's just flourished on the main roster, so maybe No Way Jose will prove me wrong. I hope he does.